Today, but let's start with free speech and First Amendment issues. What is the police department's stance on these issues, First Amendment and freedom of speech?
Well, the police department will always support and defend constitutionally based provisions, and First Amendment free speech is one of those. Now, the question typically spins on at what point does the police department begin to engage on these issues. And the first thing I always like to tell people who ask about this is that the police department is not concerned with the content of the speech. Right. No matter how abhorrent we may find it, or no matter how much we may agree with what's being put forward as individuals. Our obligation is not to get into the weeds of the content of the speech. Ours is to ensure that both sides, those who are seeking to assert a position and those who would seek to counter that position, that they are able to do so consistent with the founding principles of this country, which is based in dissent, that both sides are able to do that in a way that does not engender any violence.
Right. And that's the police department's position. What about the city's position on those same issues?
Well, I think the city is in lockstep with that position. At the end of the day, the city of Santa Monica is no stranger to issues associated with the First Amendment, no stranger to individuals coming to our community to voice a perspective, and we're no stranger to individuals who would come to the community to voice a differing viewpoint. And we've, as in my 30 years here in Santa Monica, we've dealt with exactly those kinds of issues. But the hallmark of the police department's response has been that we've done it in a way that engenders community trust and confidence, and also we precluded violence from occurring.
Right. And going along those lines, do you have any recommendations for any organization that wants to express their opinion on sensitive issues such as immigration?
Well, the city of Santa Monica has been hosting a series of forums on the topic of immigration since last November. And so certainly anyone who would be interested in learning more about that would be welcome, and to take a look at the city's website on those kinds of topics. Right. And then equally, if an entity wanted to come out and assert its own position, depending on the size crowd that they were seeking to draw, there's a permit process that enables those kinds of activities to occur in a safe way.
Right. And does the police department have a different approach if it's a private event versus a public event?
Yes. Circumstances that happen in the public spaces, there's a lot more at stake. Roadways, sidewalks need to be kept open. We need to make sure that the normal business and the normal commerce of a community can continue. And so the rules that apply to a police department seeking to maintain safety for an event that's happening in a public space is very different. In a private space, the people who are hosting the event are more in a position to control aspects of ingress, egress, and identify the rules for the safe and hopefully more civil discourse.
Right. And at what point at an event or demonstration will the police department declare unlawful assembly?
Well, it depends on the size of the crowd. It depends on the venue. Let's say we're in a space that maybe holds 150 people and there's 400 people who show up. We would have to declare an unlawful assembly in a circumstance like that, provided the people weren't cooperative and enabling us to thin the number of people in the room, because that's a fire hazard, that's a safety hazard. So when the hazard that is presented by the circumstances is larger than the benefit of enabling the activities to go forward, the police department must intervene.
Right. And that's a very interesting topic. We also have a caller who has a question. So what's your question? So what's your question? We are live. A lot of callers are wanting to ask you questions, obviously. So what is your question?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, okay. I just wanted to know if the Santa Monica Police Department has a reserve program.
Hello. Unfortunately, the Santa Monica Police Department no longer has a police reserve program. We disbanded that program in favor of moving forward with incorporating potential reserve candidates into our full-time paid employee staff.
Okay.
But thank you.
Thank you for your call. Let's go and talk about public safety a little bit. So in the last couple of months, there have been some increases in crime in public spaces and parks. So why is this happening?
Well, crime is one of those kind of amorphous things. We all know what it looks like, and we all have a sense of what it feels like should it happen to us. To say that there's been an uptick in crime, I don't know that that's so much true, depending on the type of crime that you're talking about, because the city is as safe as it's been since the 1950s, but we have experienced an increase in property crimes.
Right.
Now, when you're in the public spaces and you don't feel safe, that's a reflection sometimes of a number of factors that go beyond just talking about who's in the space, what's the time of night, what's the activity that's happening, things like that.
Right, and we know that there's always a lot of activities in Santa Monica's parks and public spaces, and we love it, so thanks for keeping us safe.
Thank you.
And we have a caller, another caller. What's your question?
I actually wanted to say thank you for acknowledging, respecting, and for listening to our leaders in our neighborhood. And I hope that the next chief will maintain our collective vision. So how much do you have as a potential to finding a new chief?
Well, hi. If I understand your question, you wanted to know how much influence I may have in the process. I don't have influence in the process, but I can assure you that our city manager has been very attentive to the community's concerns, its desires in terms of a new police chief. He went on a listening tour within the police department to hear from police staff what they were interested in their new chief. And then, you know, the contemporary police chief is going to be someone who understands the importance of maintaining the important community relationships that we've built, nurtured, and enhanced, not just over my tenure, but over the many years that the police department has practiced community policing.
Thank you for your question. Okay, so now let's talk about homelessness. So has there been an increase of homelessness in Santa Monica, and if so, why is this happening?
Yes, there's been a modest increase in the numbers of in the homeless population, and that's due to a number of factors. It's not just a Santa Monica challenge; it's a regional challenge. And if we're really going to be authentic, it's a national challenge, and it's a national tragedy at the same time. Now, some of what we're seeing is the result of displacement that caused by development in other communities that surround us. Some of it is the result of changes in the criminal justice system and the repositioning of the justice system. So there are people who are being released and they're finding that they don't have the support systems necessary to immediately engage in having a home. There are people who come to California, to Southern California in specific, and certainly to Santa Monica from other parts of the country, because quite frankly, the weather here is a lot nicer than being in Wisconsin, even at this same time of year. So we see all of those kinds of factors coming into play, and that's lending itself to the increase in our homeless population.
Right. And the public's perception is that the crime has increased because homelessness has increased. Is there a correlation there?
Well, I want to be very, very careful about looking at homelessness as though it were a crime. It is not a crime to be homeless. And now what is a challenge is when we're talking about entrenched mental illness that's found in the homeless population, entrenched substance abuse, but equally there are those who would use the cover of homelessness to prey upon other homeless individuals. And so we see crime in that regard as well, and that's the concern of the police department. It's to maintain safety for those for whom homelessness is a circumstance, to ensure that we create a bridge along with our partners in city government to provide access to services, but at the same time to maintain the safety of the folks who find themselves in that condition.
Right. So we have another caller.
Okay.
Everyone wants to talk to Jacqueline Seabrooks.
No, they were talking to the chief.
The chief, Jacqueline Seabrooks.
Okay.
Okay, so what's your question? What's your question?
Hello.
Chief Seabrooks is ready to answer your question.
Well, maybe
Hi,
not.
Chief Seabrooks.
Oh, hi.
It's Rebecca Lantry.
Oh my gosh, hi Becky.
I want to say thank you for all you've done for the women and girls in the city of Santa Monica.
Well,
Thank you for leaving your mark here.
Well,
And my question is, what are we going to do without you?
Aw, that's the best question yet.
I know, right? That's so sweet. You're going to think of me fondly, and you're going to do me the favor of making very welcome our interim chief of police, Captain Ken SEMKO, who will take the helm as the interim police chief effective September 29th. And then you're going to call me, and we'll sit around and we'll reminisce.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Great,
You're welcome.
thank you so much. So we were talking about the homeless population. What is the police department doing with this issue?
Well, the police department is not the sole purveyor of the resolution for homelessness. We are a player, an active player in the city's governance structure. So we work with our partners in community and cultural services. We work with the Department of Mental Health. We have healthcare workers on staff in the police department. We work with a contract staff member from West Coast Care, and we have a dedicated number of police officers who go out and engage with our homeless populations so that we can ensure that individuals who find themselves in need of services are linked to those services, no matter what those services may be, whether it's veteran services, whether it's substance abuse services, things like that.
Right.
And we do our best to ensure that folks make those connections, and that we try to encourage them to reestablish the connections with home. And we even have a program called Project Homecoming, where should an individual present and want to return home, we work with them to make that happen, but also do a bit more to ensure that on the other end there are services and people there to receive them.
Right.
So we do quite a number of things.
Can you give us some insight on what the city's doing with the homelessness issue in Santa Monica?
Well, the city is a major player in all of this, and so it's taken on the opportunity to work with the larger regional partners in the county and in the state, and then even looking to the federal government for assistance, and then working with us so that it's not just the police department's challenge, it becomes this integrated approach to everyone working together to eradicate homelessness.
Speaking again about homelessness, sometimes we see them at parks or in public spaces. What recommendation do you give people that come into contact with a homeless person?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to remember that a homeless person is a person. And while you may have your preferences on whether you choose to give to a homeless person who's asking for assistance in the street, or to point them in the direction of resources and a shelter and things like that, that's an individual call. But what we do say is two things. Recognize that the person is not necessarily a criminal, and we want to always be compassionate in our response because, you know, as they say, there but for the grace go I.
That's right. And what limitations and challenges are there trying to enforce laws in public spaces, or people just not wanting to vacate certain areas?
Well, the challenges with that are, it's a mixed bag. We have worked very diligently to make the connections and be active in terms of being of assistance to our those who find themselves in our homeless population. But we're very clear about maintaining the balance of constitutionality because homeless individuals have certain rights and responsibilities, and so do property owners, visitors, and others. And what we don't want to do is criminalize homeless behavior where that's not the case. Now, where it's necessary, well, then that's what happens. But what we try to do is take the approach of service first.
Right, that's right. And Chess Park has recently received a lot of attention. There's been some issues there. Talk to us about what's been done to address what's been happening at Chess Park.
Well, we've done some undercover work. We've done some very open and clear enforcement, because I was horrified at some of the things that were happening in broad daylight. A local resident there sent us some video, and I have to tell you the video was shocking. And we put a full court press together because it was important to bring back a sense of community and a sense of shared use of the public space, not by folks who don't agree with the values of the community, which is not to be drinking in public, not to be doing, relieving oneself in public and engaging in other lewd conduct in public or selling drugs. Right. So it was necessary to have a contingent of police officers go down there and really, really work to eradicate the problem. And we've had some measured success.
Great. We also have some social media questions. We have one from Declan Durkin on Twitter. He says, are more traffic service officers getting added to ticket folks speeding or blowing stop signs on local roads?
Well, if I take the literal question in that, the answer is no, because our traffic services officers don't write moving violations, which are the violations that you've just referenced. Right. However, on the other hand, our police officers, all who work patrol, and even those who don't, are empowered to write citations. Our uniformed patrol officers and our motorcycle officers are out there. Their obligation is to help move safe Santa Monica, and that's done through a combination of education and enforcement.
Right. And we know that you have about a month left on the job before you go into this wonderful retirement land, and we're going to miss you so much. What are you going to miss most about being the chief of police here in Santa Monica?
Wow. Well, I'm going to miss the wonderful people that I interact with on a daily basis. I'm going to miss the wonderful men and women who are committed to keeping this community safe. I'm going to miss the beautiful beach that's just about 19 blocks to the west. And then I'm not going to miss my phone ringing at different times of the day and night as I look ahead. But my career has been very rewarding, and the time I've spent here in Santa Monica has been fabulous. But as in all things, good things come to an end.
Right. And then better things are also going to happen for
That's
you.
right. I'm evolving into my next life.
Awesome. We also have another social media question. This one's from Lauren Woodland on Facebook. She says, what is the expected response time when a 911 call is placed?
Ooh, well, the expected time is PDQ. Pretty darn quick. But that question is difficult to answer because it depends on where's the closest officer when the call is received and dispatched. But generally, as a rule in Santa Monica, our response time is somewhere between 3 and 7 minutes, depending on time of day, traffic patterns, and then the ready availability, of the responding police officers. 3 to 7 minutes. That's pretty darn quick, like you said.
That's right. Okay, we have another social media question. Lauren Woodland on Facebook, she says, why are the streets that have schools on them not specifically policed and cleaned up?
Well, I don't know that that's true. I think the streets adjacent to the schools are policed. In fact, just yesterday I was hearing quite a bit of commentary about the enforcement that's happening around the schools and the fact that, it might be a little stringent because it's so early in the school year. By the same token, I think that the areas adjacent to the schools in Santa Monica are very clean, and as I drive around the community taking a look and making notifications and things, I'm always pleased with the way that I see things looking.
Right. So this is a very hot button question because it's about traffic. And everyone always has an opinion about traffic, right?
Yes, nobody likes to sit in it, and everybody complains.
We have 30 seconds, so we're going to have to go to that question after the break.
Okay.
Like I said, we do need to take a short break. It's been lovely speaking with you. We're going to hear more from Chief Seabrooks, and we're also going to have a very special guest join us. We're still going to be live with calls and questions, so don't go away, and get your calls ready, get your questions ready, because anything, we can ask you anything, right? Well, anything goes.
Almost anything.
Almost anything. Don't go away. We will be right back.
Hi, Chief. Well, I just want to say congratulations on your retirement. It's well deserved. The amount of service you put into keeping this city safe and representing law enforcement is truly admirable. You're leaving a lasting legacy here at the Santa Monica Police Department and law enforcement community as a whole. Thank you for always being there to represent the police department, the men and women, both sworn and civilian. Thank you for trying new things and making this agency become the true benchmark of excellence. I wish you the best in your retirement. It's well deserved. I have very fond memories of working with you. If you don't recall, you were my background investigator when I got hired here, all the way through starting the traffic division together. and working on many projects, and just working hand in hand with you has been a lasting experience and something I will never forget, and I learned a lot from you.
Chief, I want to say congratulations to you on your retirement. It's been some great years having you here and working for you as our chief, as well as all the many, many years prior when you were coming up the ranks and promoting to make it to chief, on all those great times that we've had with you as well. I wish you the best in your retirement. On a personal note, I want to thank you because whether I told you this or not, you were instrumental in my career and having me stay here in Santa Monica PD back when I lateraled over, and it turned out to be the greatest piece of advice anyone has given me throughout my career, and I want to thank you for that on a personal note. But congratulations, enjoy your retirement.
Chief, congratulations on your retirement. Hate to see you go, but I understand. What more can we say? We're going to miss you here at the department. You've done a lot of great things for this department. We really appreciate you. Good luck on your retirement. Look forward to getting with you sometime in the future as I retire in the next 5 years.
Thank you so much for being an amazing chief, for being an inspiration to women, for being a trailblazer for women in law enforcement. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to this live and very special edition of Ask the Chief, where Santa Monica Police Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks answers your questions. So if you have a question for the chief, please call the number on your screen, 310-458-4950. We've already covered a lot of great information, and we are also now joined by a very special guest, Mr. Santa Monica himself, Nat Travis. Welcome to Ask the Chief.
It's my honor, believe me.
And actually mine.
We are very sad to know that Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks is retiring, but I want to get your opinion on what has Chief Seabrooks meant to the police department here in the city of Santa Monica.
Well, from the perspective of a retired member of this wonderful police department, I was so proud when she was appointed chief. I was there, and what I think she's brought most important to is a level of intellect, the strength of a leader with compassion, and that's important in this business.
Right.
I mean, she can say no, but yet still leave the recipient of the no feeling like that was the right thing to be done.
Right.
And she does it as well as any administrator that I've seen in my long career.
And what has Chief Seabrooks, what kind of impact has she had on you personally?
Well, that's I don't know that the show is long enough, but I used to be involved in state law enforcement organizations, and I was vice president of the largest police union in the state of California. And one of my things that I did, I joined the Women Police Officers Association back in the 60s. The whole purpose of that was to have equity in the law enforcement field. I think my attitude was, let's not look at gender, let's look at competence.
Right.
Let's look and see if you have a job description, can that job description be met by the candidate? I'm sitting next to a role model for women in law enforcement all over the United States. And she's done an excellent job here in this community. And I think that the testimonials from her own rank and file officers is a testament to that. And I echo it as a citizen in this community. And I'm a very active citizen. Number one in my book.
Aww. And we know that being the chief of police is no easy task. How difficult is it going to be to replace Chief Seabrooks?
Well, I lived in Santa Monica longer than you would believe, but since 1949, and we are a destination for talent. Mm-hmm. And this job, this vacancy, will be a much sought-after position from all over the United States. Now, I'm also a believer in the fact that we train and recruit and develop some of the top leadership in this field. And I can cite several have left us and gone on to be chiefs and federal officers and so on and so forth. So it wouldn't surprise me if we had people from the East Coast and the South and the Northeast wanting the job, and we hired one of our own. She's not irreplaceable, but it's going to be tough.
Right. So you two obviously have a really special relationship. Can you share a personal story about Jacqueline Seabrooks, Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks?
Well, I'm going to share something in this manner. I understand you're going to Texas.
Yes, sir.
All right, I have relatives in Texas. I have relatives in Katy. I have relatives in Houston. And I'm going to say what I said when a person from Santa Monica went over to be chief of police of the city of Pasadena. I was being interviewed by the search team, and they played a good guy, bad guy on me, and says, well, how would I recommend this individual from Santa Monica over this esteemed person from LAPD?
Right.
And I said, well, my mother lives in Pasadena, and I wouldn't recommend anybody to be chief of police in that town if I didn't make her safe. She's going to go to Texas, and as soon as she gets there, she's going to get a text from me to check out my relatives in Katy, check out my relatives in South Houston, and see if they're still around.
Right.
And she'll do it.
Right.
She'll do it. I love you, and I think that your career. Let me give you an example before I've been retired 20 years, July 1. My calendar, according to my wife, is busier than it was when I was on somebody's payroll. And I think this is going to happen in Texas. It wouldn't surprise me if she gets involved in some of the most delicate problems down there. And believe me, if she chooses to do that, it will be done well.
Thank you. We have a caller on the line. Do you have a question? What's your question?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
I am Lynn Thomas from the Lobster Restaurant.
Hello, Lynn.
Hi. How's everybody doing?
Well, we're doing very well now, right? How are you doing?
How about 10 o'clock reservations?
Oh, yeah. I'll see you there. I'll join you for some lobster.
Do you have a question, or do you just want to share a story about Chief Seabrooks?
I have a question for Chief Seabrooks.
Okay,
Chief
I'm all
Seabrooks,
ears.
how are you doing? Are you having a good night?
I am having a wonderful day, yes.
Good, good. So my question is to you, Chief Seabrooks. What, and I think I heard on the podcast a little bit, and this might be redundant, but you can answer according to my question for you, is what are your parting words for this city, community, and every relationship with people that you made in it?
Okay. My parting
Deeper
words.
than you thought, right?
No, I always like to give a moment of pause before I start talking. My parting words for this community are your law enforcement organization, the Santa Monica Police Department, has your back. You are in good hands. For the residents, business community, and all of the other relationships that have been built, continue to nurture the relationships. We are here for you, and we will continue to work with you to nurture the relationships. And we're committed to that, and that transcends any individual who sits in the chief's seat.
I agree, and I concur. So what are we supposed to do without you? Just continue to nurture and grow.
Yes, because no person is irreplaceable. So you may find that let me be nice to myself. In 6 months, you will have forgotten all about me, and you'll be in love with your new chief. And you'll think of me periodically. You'll think of me fondly.
Okay. Well, on a personal note, we are going to miss you, and I want to personally and through the community thank you for everything that you have done.
Thank you, and you're more than welcome.
Thank thank you so much. Obviously, you have so much love. So many people are going to miss you. I want to ask Mr. Santa Monica, Nat Travis, what advice do you give Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks now that she's going into this next stage of her life? Because you've obviously you've done well for yourself after retirement.
It's interesting that you asked that question, because she's already involved. On my website, I simply say get involved. And in my case, and she's got a long way to go, my longevity, and my doctors tell me that as a 3-time cancer survivor, as a person who has medical problems, I get up every morning thinking about what I can do to help somebody else.
Right.
And that motivates me to live on. And she's going to be around a long time, and that big state of Texas can use all the help they can get.
So we're going to go back to that traffic question that we didn't get to in our first segment, because maybe Mr. Santa Monica, since you are Mr. Santa Monica, can also have some input on this question. The Santa Monica 110 exit to the 405 is always a battleground. People becoming rude, forcefully pressing or cutting their way into lines of waiting cars who patiently prepare to exit, and never a police car nearby. Can there not be a much earlier, longer set of lane separation poles if no police can control that situation? And that question is from Elizabeth Farrick from Facebook. So how would you guys answer that question?
Okay, well, I'll start off by saying I think that the State Department of Caltrans has tried to make some improvements at that interchange, because if you look at it now, the lane delineators are painted a bit more clearly, and you see something that you don't see on a whole lot of the transition roads throughout the region, and that's the symbol for the 405 with the red highway sign, and that lets people know early where they need to be positioned in order to transition to the 405 North or the 405 South, and it's an effort to try to minimize some of that last-minute lane changing.
Right.
But, you know, traffic is one of those things. The roads are carrying more vehicles than they were really designed to do, and people are more and more impatient about wanting to be where they're going to be. And then some people are just ill-mannered and thoughtless drivers, and so they wait until that last minute thinking that by going up and then cutting off 3 or 4 cars, they're going to save time on the commute. You know, the California Highway Patrol is the jurisdiction that's responsible for the enforcement on the interstates, and I think that they do a very good job within, you know, the limitations of them being stuck in traffic as well, to provide enforcement, but also roadside assistance and safety.
Right. Great answer. So obviously we're live, we're taking calls, and we do have a caller ready to ask a question. What's your question? What's your question?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
My name is Irma Carranza.
Hi, Irma, ¿cómo estás?
Hi, Nat.
Hi. Glad to hear your voice.
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing well.
And we know that, Irma, you're a Pico neighborhood community activist. So do you have a question, or do you just want to say hi to Jacqueline Seabrooks?
And so I actually don't have a question. So I actually do not have a question. Okay. Hello?
Hi.
Yes.
But I do want to go ahead and thank Chief Seabrooks for her stance on immigration. She came to our immigration forum in the Pico neighborhood at the beginning of the year, where over 200 people attended, and she reassured our community and our residents that the police department, its officers, will not be engaging in any anti-immigration practices. And so that was courageous. That was what I expected from a leader, and she's shown nothing but that she's a great leader.
Wow.
Thank you.
I echo those sentiments, Irma.
Yes.
That's the kind of leadership that has impacted this community. It takes strength to be a leader and not a follower. Thank you.
Exactly. And she has walked with us. Unfortunately, our community suffered a tragedy also earlier this year, and she and her officers walked with the family that was impacted and with the rest of the community to honor the family and was compassionate with the family, and how they responded and the resources that they provided. Again, a true leader and a person of courage acts that way. And so I will forever be grateful for her leadership and the shift in PD's attitude towards our community, because we are currently now practicing true community policing because of her leadership.
Very good.
Wow.
Thank you, Irma.
Thank you, Irma. And speaking of leadership, Mr. Santa Monica, Nat Travis, tell us about the things that impress you most about Jacqueline Seabrooks' leadership style.
Strength, and what I mean by strength is this: if to discipline a police officer is one of the most courageous things that a leader has to do. You can't be one of the boys or girls, if I can use that term, and be a strong leader. You can be compassionate, and just as was described by the caller, have empathy, but the buck stops at her desk, and she has to make a decision. If that decision is termination, guess what? That's in the best interest of the people of the city of Santa Monica. If that decision is a suspension, taking money out of that officer's pocket, it's in the best interest of the people of the city of Santa Monica. I entrust my faith in her leadership and her police department that I can live safely in my home in this town.
I'm curious, was there one moment or one incident during Jacqueline Seabrooks' term as chief of police of Santa Monica that really impressed you, that you remember more than other moments? Because there's been many moments.
Well, you know, I said earlier about this notion of being on the California Women Peace Officers.
Right.
I ended up being a special master in the federal court, overseeing the integration of the San Francisco Police Department for 18 years. And I came on this police department, and sitting in my oral, I was asked, what do you want to be in this department? I says, I want to be chief of police one day. You're going to take Leroy's place. That was the response. Leroy was another black officer on the department. I didn't get angry. I went on to go to the university, and when I came to see her sworn in, I am now the chief. She made it.
That's right.
I mean that.
Yes.
That was so powerful for me.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
And Chief Seabrooks, is there something you want to share with the citizens of the city of Santa Monica that you've been overseeing for all of these years?
Well, I came here in 1982, October, and the community looked very different. The police department was very different. Our approach to our work was very different. And I think the most impressive circumstance has been the evolution of this community, the cohesion that this community has built, and even in that, it's not an easy cohesion that was developed. I mean, there's tensions, and there's the democratic process, and you know, there's people who want the 1950s Santa Monica, and there's people who want the 2020 Santa Monica.
Right.
But it's a dynamic and very vibrant community, and it understands evolution, and it understands change. And in that, as a person working in the police organization equally evolved, equally became dynamic, equally grew. And I'll tell you, it's been no greater honor than to spend 30 years here.
Wow. Wow. And on that beautiful note, Chief Seabrooks, because we're going to get the Kleenex out,
Yeah, right?
we are going to go to another break. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Santa Monica.
Glad to be here.
Nat
Thank you.
Travis, it's been such an honor to interview you and have you here and have you part of the send-off of Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks.
Love you.
We will be right back. We need to take a short break, but when we do come back, another special guest is going to join us, so don't go away.
Chief, I can't believe the time's finally come when you're moving on down the road and you get to go and enjoy your retirement in a new chapter of life. For me personally, you've always been that person that's been a true mentor, a true leader, and a friend when it's needed.
Chief, I would like to wish you the very best in retirement. You will be dearly missed by all of us here and among your executive team, and we wish you all the best.
It's been an incredible honor to work for you the past several years. I hope you enjoy every minute of retirement, and I can't wait to hear what sort of things you get up to in your retirement.
Chief, thank you very much for all your leadership, your guidance, and your inspiration. This is both bittersweet, a well-deserved retirement, but I'm sorry to see you go. Thank you for everything that you've done for this organization and for me personally, and I wish you well in retirement.
I'm so happy for you. You have served communities, law enforcement well. You have been an ambassador for women. You have been a soldier for justice, and I really think you're one of the best law enforcement executives in this nation. So I say to you, ride off into the sunset knowing you left it all on the field. You did your very, very best, and you left a great legacy.
Hi, Chief. Congrats on your retirement. You will definitely be missed. You have truly made me feel welcomed here in the department. I just cannot thank you enough for just imparting your professionalism and just expertise in the law enforcement field. Thank you so much. Have a great retirement. Enjoy Texas, and I'm sure I'll come out and spend a little time on that giant ranch you're buying. Have a good one.
Congratulations, Chief, on your retirement. I want to wish you the very best in your future and whatever you're going to pursue. I'm sure it's going to be a success, and we're going to miss you dearly, and we appreciate all the hard work that you've put into making our organization great.
Congratulations on your retirement. You had a long career, very rewarding. Glad you got to end it where you started. Good luck to you. Save me a place in Dallas.
Chief, congratulations on a long and successful career, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck going forward.
Hi, Chief. Best of luck. Appreciate everything you've done for the department, and if it's possible, have fun in Texas. Best regards. Take care.
And welcome back to this live special edition of Ask the Chief, where Santa Monica Police Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks answers your questions. So if you have a question for the Chief, please call the number on your screen, 310-458-4950. And we are now joined by a very special guest, Santa Monica City Mayor Pro Tem Gleam Davis. Welcome to the show, and you come bearing gifts.
I do. Thank you so much. I just really wanted, on behalf of Mayor Ted Winterer and the entire City Council, express our gratitude to Chief Seabrooks. She has been not only a remarkable leader in our community, but someone who has reached out in ways that were unimaginable when she started. And so she has left our community more beautiful than she found it. And to honor that, we want to present her with some beautiful flowers.
Wow.
Well, thank you.
Wow.
And they are beautiful.
And obviously the council members have worked very closely with Chief Seabrooks. Talk to us about how she's impacted the city of Santa Monica.
I think her biggest impact is that while she is obviously a great leader, and we've heard a lot about that already, that she is tremendously accessible to the members of the community. Mm-hmm. I don't know anyone who has had any hesitancy about approaching her about any sort of issue. And some of them are not even direct police related, but they have looked up to her and yet somehow feel that they also can talk to her on a very human one-to-one level. And that's a rare quality, and I certainly have appreciated it as part of Chief Seabrooks' leadership.
That's right. And what's her style of leadership? Because we know she's a very unique police chief in a lot of different ways.
I think the thing that makes her unique is that she brings a life experience. She started out here in the community and left and saw how the other half lived in some other communities and then came back. And the thing that I have always appreciated about Chief Seabrooks is that her investment in the community has been unquestioned. Mm-hmm. She really has taken ownership of her role here as the chief, and she doesn't view it that she is the police chief of someone else's community. This is her community, and she treats it that way. And that's all you can ask for in a leader, is someone who makes that kind of investment and therefore really tries their best, and she certainly has, as I said, to make the community a safe place, a place where people feel comfortable, a place where rights are recognized and respected, and yet at the same time, she really has increased our ability to deal with the modern problems that we face on a day-to-day basis. So she's just been tremendous.
Right. And you both have worked here in the city of Santa Monica for many years. What's your favorite memory of Police Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks?
Good face. Well, I have a couple, if you don't mind. And the first one is very serious, and that was the day of the tragic shooting at Santa Monica College. And that was a difficult day for everybody in the community. And there were many law enforcement officers there from very many agencies. And the thing that impressed me the most about Chief Seabrooks on that day was she said, this is a Santa Monica problem, and Santa Monica's taking ownership of it. And she didn't let people from the FBI, from the sheriffs, even from the community college police department sort of take over. She recognized that this was an incident in our community and that our community needed to deal with it and needed to hear from her as the police chief of our community. So her willingness in a sea of men, in a sea of other people who would probably like to have asserted some sort of authority over her, said, no, I'm taking ownership of this. And I was so impressed and so grateful for her. But I want to share a more lighthearted memory, and that's a couple years ago at National Night Out. And somebody had the audacity to turn on music while Chief Seabrooks and I were on the stage. And she can dance, and oh my God, I felt like an elephant up there with two left feet. And so, you know, we were sort of moving around, and she was moving so gracefully, and I sort of backed off the stage and let her have her moment in the sun. But it is clear that she is a woman who loves life, and she was expressing it that evening while interacting with our community. And I think that's, again, one of the things that makes her special.
Right. And we actually have a caller that wants to ask Jacqueline Seabrooks, Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks, a question. What's your question?
City manager.
Oh, it is Rick Cole, city manager for the city of Santa Monica.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Big bus.
Chief, I had a chance today to say how much you've meant to the community, to the department, and to me. I wanted to frame a question for you, because one of the aspects of your leadership that's been a hallmark that hasn't been talked about is you've been a leader on the forefront of using technology in law enforcement. All of our police officers now have brand new radios that allow them to talk with the fire department and public works and other agencies seamlessly. You have the handheld pilot program that's going to put in the hands of every police officer amazing tools. You were a pioneer in experimenting with the video cameras in cars. Now the cameras on our officers. What do you see as the future of technology in law enforcement, because you've been such a leader during your tenure?
Leave it to the boss to ask that question.
But now there's no pressure to answer it correctly because you retire in 30 days. Right?
Well, you know, yeah, but you know, you got to get through that 30 days, right?
Right.
I think the future of technology, because you know now, or the key now is going to be to look at technology very critically, because I think sometimes the tendency in law enforcement is to buy the newest, latest, and greatest and be on the bleeding edge of whatever that new technology is. And I think the question now has to turn on what's the true gain, because technology now has made these leaps and bounds. So now the question becomes, we're not going to be making leaps and bounds, we're just going to be making baby steps. And so looking at what's out there and then determining maximum value is going to be the next thing to do. Because the handheld devices that we've acquired actually have a capacity that we really don't know its full capacity. So I think we need to make sure that we maximize that which we have. I think that the conventional wisdom is that you buy a computer device and you use maybe 20% of it. So the idea is for us to not just be the norm and use the 20%, it would be how do we use 50, 60% of this, but also don't allow technology to be the driver. Technology is an assistive tool, and in police work we still have to rely on instinct and skill and the ability to read people and understand constitutional issues and all of these kinds of things. So it's the challenge moving forward is to keep what is essential to be a good field police officer and keep that curiosity. Use the proper technologies to further enhance that underlying work that we do, even as we keep an eye for those things that might give us a bit more bang for buck. So I don't know if that answers the question specifically, but I think it gives a general sense to the listening audience about some of the challenges that technology presents. Because one thing for sure, it's not cheap.
I think it gives a flavor of what a brainy chief we've had and what a leader she's been nationally. Thank you so much, Chief. You've been a great partner.
Thank you. And I have to say this. Somebody did once call me a propeller head, and I never thought about that. But you know, I just need the little buzzy
There you
thing.
go. There you go.
I'm good with that description.
Yeah.
I really am.
But you're also super cool.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah. Speaking of being super cool, both of you have been role models for women seeking a career in public service. Talk to us about advice you give little girls that perhaps are watching and maybe want to become a police officer or maybe a council member one day. What piece of advice can you share?
Well, I'll start out so the chief can have the last word. I think the most important thing is do what you love. I think that whether you're a little girl or a little boy or a grown-up girl or a grown-up boy, it's important to find what you love and pursue it. Don't be afraid. Don't let anyone tell you, oh, you can't make money that way or you'll never make it for whatever reason. Because if it's something you love, you'll be energized every day and you'll wake up and be excited about it. And that's when you succeed. Is you don't succeed because you've got this degree from a school or you're making this much money. You succeed when your life is fulfilling. And it's been evident, for example, with Chief Seabrooks that she loves what she does, and that's reflected in the kind of job she's done. So that would be my very simple advice, is find what you love and do it.
Perfect.
And Mayor Pro Tem said it best, second only to Nike, just do it.
Right, just do it.
That's all you can do. And,
Yeah.
and because sometimes there's a tendency, I tell this to police officers, particularly women, we tend to self-edit. We tend not to push the envelope. We tend to stick with what's comfortable. And you have to get out there and do different things. And it's not a sin not to do well. The sin is not to do.
Right.
And so you just keep pushing and you keep pushing and you keep pushing. You know, I always wanted to ride a police motorcycle. It took me until I was a police lieutenant to be able to do that.
Wow.
But I enjoyed it and did it for 4 years or so. You know, I didn't want to be a SWAT officer, but I knew as a commanding officer I needed to understand that genre of work.
Right.
So I did that, and it paid dividends as a chief. So you know, stoke that innate curiosity, learn as much as you can, get out there and do it, talk to different people, develop, you know, those contact people that you can go to for good advice, not the advice you want to hear, the advice you need to hear, and just go after it. Follow your dreams, because the opportunities in the world now are far greater than they were when I came on in 1981, when I was first a police officer, and then in 82 when I came here to the Santa Monica Police Department. There's no reason not to grab that brass ring, none at all.
Right, and you two are shining examples of what dreaming big can lead to. We have a caller. We're live. We're taking phone calls, and I believe we have Richard on the line that wants to ask a question. Richard, what's your question?
Hi.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, how are you?
Fine,
So
how are you?
I'm setting up a company called HPC, Helping the Community, and what I'm doing is making jobs for the homeless. And I was originally going to stores and seeing if they'd be interested in paying to have a homeless person hold a sign out on the sidewalk advertising their store. The problem I'm having is the liability factor. If there's a slip and fall or a fight or something of that nature, there might be a problem. I also want them to work as independent contractors, which is also another problem. So what I did was I was listening to the mayor of Albuquerque speaking about how he's getting the city to employ these people that want to work. He's going up to them and saying, do you want a job? And they're saying, yes, I do. And he's not saying, I'll come back in a few days. He's saying, you can start right now. So I wanted to do that with Santa Monica. And I'm going to go down to the City Hall and talk with them, but I wanted to speak with you first to see what your opinion would be.
Well, I'll start out. I think anything we can do to help people reclaim dignity and self-respect in their lives is crucial. And obviously, gainful employment is part of that. So I think it's an interesting idea. We actually do a lot of that already in the city. For example, a lot of the people who have maintenance responsibilities in downtown Santa Monica are hired from Chrysalis, which is one of the nonprofits in town, which actually helps people who are homeless find employment, and that allows them to transition to a permanent gainful employment. So I think it's a great idea. I'm not sure what all the legal or other impediments would be, but let's talk about it, and it may foster some other thought, and it may come up. We may come up with a creative solution.
Who do you think I should go see down in the city to expedite this?
Well, you're going to get me in trouble now.
Well, not too much trouble. I can't get the chief in too much trouble. I mean, you're the boss, you know.
Well, we just had our city manager on the line. I would call the city manager's office and ask to speak with somebody about potential issues regarding employing the homeless. And my guess is the city manager's still listening, so he can give them a heads up to look out for your call.
Okay, Richard Howard Stein, sir.
All right.
I'll be calling you tomorrow.
Okay, Richard Howard Stein, we heard you.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Richard. Earlier, before the call, we talked about women in law enforcement. Talk to us why it's necessary to have women in the ranks.
Well, I think women bring a unique perspective and a different perspective to the business of policing. And that perspective is crucial. And it's not to say that men aren't compassionate. It's not to say any of those things. We just look at challenges differently. We diffuse circumstances differently. And so it's a needed balance.
Right.
And a workplace is advantaged whenever there is a diversity of people, men, women, everything else, no matter culture, religion, orientation, etc. So I think as a woman in law enforcement who's been around for just under 37 years, I see how the workplace has evolved from when there was just a few of us to now where, you know, there's a substantial number, not just in the Santa Monica Police Department, but in the profession as a whole. And I do a lot of examination of what's happening with law enforcement across the country, and I think right now this is the era of the woman chief. And I think you're going to see some major inroads in the way that policing changes because we look at problems differently. We have a different and more we have a different approach, more collaborative approach. And some of the things that sometimes get in the way, they don't get in the way with us. And I always say, find the path to say yes, because no is too easy.
Oh, that's a great statement. So, well, we have to go because we are running out of time. We wish you the best of luck. We will truly miss you, Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks. And also we want to thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gleam Davis, for being here.
So happy I could be here.
Well, thank you.
But it's not really the end of the show. We do have a final surprise.
Uh-oh. It can't get any more. I don't think I can take it.
Well, you're going to have to take it because we have some people here that want to bid you a nice farewell, a well-deserved farewell. And they are walking into our studios now.
Where are all these people? Where are all these guys come from?
So, Chief, we wrangled a few of our fine officers.
Wait a minute.
Here to give you a nice final farewell.
Are you guys going to sing?
I don't think you want to hear any of us sing. Unless anybody is willing to sing. But, Chief, thank you so much for your years of service with us. 36 years of police service has been very profound for us, and we're going to miss you tremendously. On behalf of the men and women of the police department, thank you so much. I miss you and thank you for all the leadership that you've offered myself, and I'm sure that the men standing here will tell you the same thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to say?
You didn't bring any diversity in this group. Where's the women? Where's the women? That's okay. No, thank you guys for coming. Now I have one question. Sergeant, who's out the street?
That's why Sea-Watch isn't here, man.
Roger that. Oh, gotcha. All right. Well, let me get up. Can I get up? I'm not on camera now, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, so I guess I can't get up and just like turn around.